I don't want to push people out of their comfort zone. I like people to be comfortable. I'm like, no, don't be uncomfortable. Like, I can get further if you're comfortable, you know? Like, and I think some designers want to push people, and I don't want to push people. I really want people to be comfortable. And when they get more comfortable within their own selves and they want to push themselves, I'm there with them.
Thanks for tuning in, listening up, or watching on YouTube, Architecture, Design, and Photography. Today we have a guest that I've been pretty excited about having on, Krista Stokes, because we've worked together before and I really enjoy talking with you. We have a pretty good rapport, and here's my funny opener for this. Of all the stylists I've worked with, you're the one who I would describe as punk rock.
I don't know why.
But you generally have like a little glint in your eye of mischievous,
guilty,
and antagonizing in some little way, finding something or other. But I've always loved your work. I've loved shooting any project that you've been a part of.
Aww.
Generally, you've been.
Thank you.
The only time you've been involved in projects, they've been really, really cool projects. So
thanks.
That's
I
been
appreciate
really nice.
that. Yeah.
Oh well, hey, you know.
Do you remember the first time that we met, that we worked together?
Oh man, it was probably on a main home design project, right?
No, it was out at Earth at the spa.
Really?
Yeah. Remember when you shot the spa rooms?
Yeah.
Out
Was
at
that
Earth.
the?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That got picked up by Condé Nast. I always pulled that one as like, oh yeah, I've worked for Condé Nast.
Yeah. That was the first time I shot with you. You and I were out there at some ungodly hour in the morning on tall ladders and trying to get that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Trying to get those tree houses.
We got a good little kind of morning glow out of it.
Yeah.
It was a cool little place. But
and then second time I worked with you, it was out at Tony from Snug Harbor Farm, out at his house. You for Main Home and Design for the interior design issue.
I'd like as soon as I'd see an image of it, I'd remember.
You would. It's old. It was an old farmhouse, and it was his bedroom upstairs, and had the beekeeper painting next to the bed.
Keep going.
Whatever.
Tell
You
me
just gave me some great advice, and it was. So I think about
Really?
you. You did. You gave me some great advice.
Oh, now I'm nervous.
And no, it was just about. I am a nitpicker. Right? You know me. I mean, I'm just like, oh, could that be a little bit to the left? Could that be to the right?
Right, but that's the whole process.
But you were like, hey, kid, you know, and it was a long time ago. And you were just like, let me just save you a little bit here. You know, it looks great. You're never going to, you know, it was just, you sort of just gave me, just to relax. You're like, it's great. What you've done is you've done. And it's here, and now let's document it. And don't fuss over it. You know?
So I heard a really interesting thing on a take on this, that you never really, with these type of creative works, be it writing, music, photography, styling, they're never perfect. They're just at some point you allow them to be released, right?
Yeah.
Because you could just keep going. It's
Which
not
is
a
back to your
mathematical
documentary.
equation. Oh, geez.
You know, but and I understood that when I heard you saying that. I'm still asking the questions, and it's hard for me to put this out there when I'm still asking the questions.
Yeah,
you know?
I was thinking about that a lot on the way to work. Man, you're giving me, you see that? I'm getting
But they would. I listened to that show, and I was like, that was some good stuff to think about, and nice to hear that people think about things in similar ways.
So are you talking about the sarcastic, sacrilegious YouTube series I put out?
I haven't seen that. I will watch that. Yeah.
Or the spiritual podcast. The
one that we were just talking about.
With Eric.
Eric.
Yeah.
You know, like
he
just touched on. I felt like I didn't know what it was everything for me, but design is everything for me. It is spiritual.
Where do you think design comes from? Like the creative process in design, like for you, that's a good starting point. Like where does it come from? What inspires you? What grabs you and why?
I think, and this is where I think you and I have sort of always started on tangents. I have no idea what I believe in. I always say I believe in nothing and everything. Because
so
if I believe
agnostic to a degree?
Yeah. And if I believe in everything, then nothing is part of everything. And so maybe nothing is part of that. Having said that, I've been having these great discussions with fellow creatives. and maybe that's back to that praise. I don't know why I do what I do. I'm lucky. I'm just compelled to do it. I don't know. I don't know if when I jumped down from that chute, and I just grabbed a bunch of stuff that I wanted to do in this life, I didn't know there was another room that offered math and science. I was like, shit, there's another space. I'm just compelled to do it. And I think that I'm fascinated when there's something about an environment that I think we all have in common, that whether it's a person in a prison cell or a mansion or an apartment or a refugee camp, people are hanging rugs and banners. And
they make it their own.
They make it their own. And I think that my childhood and the way I came up, and, it was a way that I could comfort myself. It was a way that I could it's service to others, really.
Yeah.
And I think that's sort of where it's born out of.
So how do you feel about, because you are going in and making other people's spaces their own, but you're bringing your eye to it. And how different do other people's spaces look than your own personal space? And how do you deal with that dynamic?
I always say to people, they're like, what would you do? And I'm like, you don't want to do what I would do. I'm crazy. I don't know. I mean, I think in some ways that design, whether it's architecture, photography, any art, it's a puzzle. And it's about figuring out that puzzle and getting good at that puzzle. And I think when it comes to styling and photography, it's just like, we need a chair, we need a throw, we need an ottoman, we're done.
Right.
It's formulaic.
Right.
And I think
that's when it starts to bore me, is if I start to fall back on formulaic too much.
But when you teach people that in their own space, and you see that light bulb go on, and they come to you and say, I don't have good taste, I don't have good style, you're like, no, I'm so sorry you feel that way. And I think that I don't really make it. I try to make it their own, and I try to say, teach them. And it's like, all right, well, we need some pattern, we need some life, we need some layers, we need to tell a story, we need some expression, we need some neutral, we need,
Right.
And I think it doesn't get boring for me because I love teaching people.
Well, the thing that I'm looking at that gets boring to me is if I personally approach something the same every time, I think I have a warning sign in my head that says you could go in and reliably shoot this space like you have 100 times before, and it'll be really good. But push yourself outside of that normal approach, or maybe cover the one that you know how to cover really well so the client gets what they expect, but then do something that might fail. Do it, because
Definitely.
If you don't, you're going to get bored, and you're not going to evolve and change and create something new. You've already created and established this. And I guess to what you're saying, I imagine that anytime you go in and work so personally with a person around their space, they're learning those things probably for the first time, and you're seeing these lights come on, and it's new every time.
Every time.
Yeah, so I can see that.
And not everybody wants something extraordinary. And
Right.
I like the ordinary. I want that because a lot of people feel ordinary. And I don't want them to be left behind because they just like beige.
Right.
And I try not to say oh God, if maybe under my breath I'm like, oh, that's ugly. And then I immediately just feel like, that's not fair, Krista. You don't
Right.
care for it, and you don't. So I try. So it's funny because I don't want to push people out of their comfort zone. I like people to be comfortable. I'm like, no, don't be uncomfortable. I can get further if you're comfortable, you know? And I think some designers want to push people, and I don't want to push people. I really want people to be comfortable. And when they get more comfortable within their own selves and they want to push themselves, I'm there with them. And I'm like, let's do it. You want to change it up and you want to go dark on their wall, or you want to do that. Let's get there. I don't want to push anyone in their uncomfortable zone. As
Right.
an artist, approaching it, I have a short attention span. Like you, in the sense of
I think a
I
lot
need
of
to do
creatives
styling.
do.
I need to do this. I need to do that. It's my attention span. but every client is different enough. Like you had said in that about showing up to take pictures. It's not boring because it's different every time. It's a different architect. It's a different, there's enough in it that's different, and it keeps me there.
So something that interests me a bit, let's see if we're common on this, if we have any commonality, but have you been an employee? Don't
I have.
Were you a horrible employee?
Yes.
You too.
Well,
Great.
Yes, I was.
Don't be upset about it. I was a horrible employee.
It was. I laughed out loud when you were saying that. I was a good employee. I didn't want to be, and I tried to. I worked at the Onion for a few years, and
oh, really?
out
the
in Colorado.
Newspaper.
Yeah, the publisher that published the Onion.
I wonder if I would have been a good employee if I was in a position like that, though.
But I had to tweak it.
Yeah.
I couldn't actually get there at 9 every day, and 10 was just a little, I sort of had to adapt it because I don't, it's on my Twitter profile, my 3rd grade teacher wrote in the margins of my report card, doesn't thrive in a structured environment. And I was like, right on, sister. Right?
Are there any areas of your life where you do like structure? Because I looked down on people this is me admitting that I'm a jerk and short-sighted and judgmental sometimes. I would think like, these people, they can't keep a normal exercise routine, or, they have to have all these structures to keep them in place, right? We had lived in the same house for 13 years, and unbeknownst to me, I had developed all these habits. I would come home, I'd pass the same things, they'd cue things in my head, I'd know where I could work out and how, and the paths that I could run, blah, blah, blah. And it was so easy for me because I had been living in the same place for 13 years to keep for this example, a workout schedule. We sold our house and moved like 3 times in a year while we were building. And like just that little part of my life was just like gone.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this is so hard to allocate this amount of energy every day to say, all right, how am I going to do this today? Because I don't have a system to deal with it.
But
how
do
does
you
that
think
structure?
You were a bad employee because you're a control person. You're a control
I'm
person.
very controlling.
You're
Just ask
very,
my wife.
Yeah, but
I've learned that.
And I'm controlling as well.
Yeah.
And I am personally controlling. I want to control what people see and sort of how they see it. And I can't just pick up the phone when it rings anytime because I'm an introvert. I need to sort of be present
Really?
and be centered.
You don't come across as an introvert.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. And that's not to say that I'm not outgoing.
Right.
I love
you need
collaboration.
that downtime.
I love inspiration. I love keeping myself open. But I really, like I said, I need routine. I need my alone time in the mornings.
So it's routine, but it's not schedule.
It's not schedule. I'm no schedule. I mean, I wake up kind of every day at like 4:30 and sort of get it. But
Yeah, I woke up
I
at
am
4:30
structured.
today.
I'm a control person. I don't want tomorrow to be like today.
Oh, right there with you. 100%.
I don't. I tried to have a retail store for a few years, and I was like, who the hell wants to be somewhere every day at 10 o'clock? Every day.
That's why I made a bad employee to work, for one, on someone else's project for that amount of time was, it pulled something out of me that
Monotony.
I didn't want to lose.
Yeah.
To not be my own boss, to not have control of my schedule. Like all of those things are extremely important to me. But also to have the limit of a consistent paycheck was very difficult for me to feel inspired about. I need the possibility of failure every week to keep me motivated.
The hustle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's not that like, geez, I gotta think of something here to work this, it seems like I'm just filling in the blanks otherwise. And that gets...
I go in between because I've been working for myself now since 2003, pretty much. Sorry. I go back and forth. I'm a little tired from the hustle.
So
I'm just starting to get to that point where because I knew starting my own business that it was going to be a hustle, and I grew up in a hustle.
Yeah.
I was okay with it. I feel now that what could I do if I wasn't hustling? And what could I do if I aligned with something that kept me entertained, kept me going? And without the hustle, what could I do? And I'm interested with that now when I think about what my future holds. I'm like, what's my next step? And what am I going to do?
So if I don't have that there, I get really, really edgy, especially at home if I'm not engaged with something. And it's really only, like, I can sit quietly by myself and think and read or something for a little bit in the mornings, like right when I get up, if no one's around. But as soon as that's over, man, you don't want to be around me unless I'm engaged in gear in some way.
Or you're going to be my project. Like, if you keep me away from it.
Yeah.
So I am a serial rearranger of my home.
Nice.
I don't probably. In full disclosure, I rearrange something in my home every day. And I'm talking rooms,
Why do you think that is?
It's the way I work
sketching?
through things, Yeah, I think in a way, like I said, I believe in all and nothing. These things are really important, but they're not. And I think it's just a way for me to deconstruct and reconstruct. And I'm fascinated, even when people ask me to draw floor plans, right? I'm like, all right, but why are you going to keep your couch there all the time? It's confusing to me how people can want the same sort of thing every day. So I think my dad was in the Army. We moved around a lot. Then we had a single mom.
I moved around a lot too.
And I think it just brought comfort, being like, no matter where I was going, I was in control of my interiors. Mm-hmm. I could rearrange and arrange.
So what was your room like as a kid, and how did you interact with it? What did you pull from it?
Rick Springfield. It was more so when my mom and dad divorced, we moved to Oshkosh, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And so exactly. And before that, we had been living in Miami. And so when my parents were married, we did the sort of, for lack of a better word, a redneck military circuit, right? I lived in Alabama and Kentucky and Georgia, and you name it, we did it. My parents separated. My mom was from Miami. We moved back to Miami. Lived there. My mom drove my sister and I to Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And we lived above a grocery store called Wickert's, a very Polish name, Wickert's Food Market. And so our apartment was above that. And because we were on the poorer side, people were just always bringing over furniture. Like, it was just always the discarded, I have this couch, I have this rug, here's a lamp. It was just this constant influx of furniture and re-envisioning the spaces. And I'd be like, okay, Mom, your bedroom's in the front now. Right? Like, everybody stick with me here.
Right.
And it's always been that way. My mom said even when I was little, I would go and like rearrange all the presents under the tree and it's just compulsed to touch things, move things, feel the energy of them, mix it up. I don't know.
Well, there's so much going on there that with every little thing that's in a room, someone had an input of design, color, shape, edges, all of that.
As did you by choosing it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So each of those pieces gives off something, and then how you place them in the room then adds definition to the space at the next level. And it just exponentially, it's a huge ball of wax. And an interesting thing, my friend's daughter went into my son's room, and son's plural. They shared a room in our old house, and they still do because they don't like sleeping in separate rooms at night, but sidetrack. She went in there, and she did something where she arranged all their, little boy stuff. It was like stuffed animals and like a chair, but she did it in such a way that when you went in, like there was some skill there just as a natural talent. Like she did it, and I was like, whoa, this is junk that you've made. Like you did it, she's
and there's
never done
something
that since.
spiritual about that to me. Like I don't know. I don't know what it is. You know,
Well, I mean,
have you
it's
been to
kinda
Corey?
like
Have you been to Corey Daniels Gallery in Wells? Oh,
I don't
okay.
go out much.
Okay, but
I go
please
to the beach.
go and
I
then
go
let
to
me
work.
know what you think
I play with
afterwards,
my
because
kids.
there's, you know, he takes 6 things and puts them on a table, and you're like, oh, you feel
How
something.
did you do that?
Why did you do that? And why is it that makes us all feel so much better?
Right.
And
right.
I don't know. I love the energy of stuff, and I love photo shoots. I love the fact that we get to actually spend so much time trying to create a moment.
Right.
And it's about a height and a vase and a piece of color and the way it goes here, and everyone's looking at their own thing.
Right.
It's an orchestration, you know.
Oh, yeah,
You're like, you
yeah.
over there with the tuba, you know, like, what are you doing? And it's a beautiful thing. And when you see those images, to know the energy behind those images, to me,
Right.
is amazing. And to see them resonate on a page it's magic.
So how, with what you do, it's in such an incredibly 3-dimensional sphere, but when we do a photo shoot, we're compressing all that into a 2-dimensional thing. What have you found to be the oddity of it, the fun of it, like, as in working with a photographer?
Yeah,
Give me your thoughts of that.
It's immediate. It's immediate gratification. When I was listening to the other podcast, when you said at the end of the day, I'm exhausted too. I mean, I am like on tears, because it is, you're giving. It's just, it's
all right
it's
there. There's
channeling, and it's intuitive.
no
and
going to the water cooler.
It is, and and it's the moment, like
Yeah.
you said, and you want to approach it. You know, you have the architect that is the brain of a home, right? And you have the builder who's the bones of the home. And I think you have the designer who's the heart of the home. And then you have the photographer who's the autobiographer. And they are tasked with,
I've never thought of it that way.
with documenting these
Right.
moments. And
Well,
when
what's
you
the
have all
stylist?
of that, you know, I think the stylist is tasked with telling that story. So for me, it's interesting because I really care about the homeowners. I really care that their home does not feel disingenuine when it's on a photograph.
Right.
That authenticity sort of comes out. So I think as a stylist, and I don't really see it much of a difference as a stylist or a decorator or a designer. I don't ever label myself. I'm like, I don't know what I do. I just do it. I have no idea. Let me know at the end, you know, whatever I did. It's about telling that story. It's really about, you have that, it's that moment. And what I really love about your photography, I feel like there's like and I don't know how, and I've had other photographers say, like, how does he do it? I'm like, I don't know. I just know that you can't move for a really long time. It's a suspended moment, and there is a stillness to it that I really like. And it is about, I don't know, it's just, where would they have sat? And if they sat, where would they have put their drink? And what did they collect? And were they cold? And did they have a blanket?
Right.
And it's like getting into that moment and making sure that you in that moment, if you were sitting there, was soothed. Right?
So when I approach composing an image, I'm always thinking, when someone views this photo, where do they want to go? Where are they called to be in that photo?
Yes.
And then I approach my criticism of the styling as in, does it reinforce that place where that person wants to go in the photo?
Yes.
And you're kind of like dropping all these clues to just continually lead people to the place that they want to be.
Agreed.
And that's kind of one approach of it. And the other thing is that if you have people in it with lifestyle, all of a sudden you're preventing the viewer from being in there, and they become more of an observer of someone else's life going on. Yeah. So there's these 2 different kind of things going on. And it's kind of like when you sell a home, agents will tell you to take out family photos. It's kind of like, as soon as you put people in a photo, it blocks the viewer really from placing themselves in there unless they highly identify with the person present in the photo.
It feels invasive to move into someone else's home.
Yeah.
But I agree. I think it's taking that picture of the chair in the corner and picturing yourself in that chair. And if you sat in that chair, would you have one of your favorite mementos to look at?
Right.
Like, could you spark, a memory by looking at that vase that you got in Thailand? And if you got cold, was there a blanket close by? If you wanted to read, was there a book close by? And I
what's
think
the view that called you to be in that place to then sit there and read?
And the other thing is, I feel like our homes, we are constantly going in and out of them, right? Like, that chair at that end of that hallway is just a piece of art to you. You don't ever sit in it. Barely, right? Like, how often do we have time to sit in our own homes?
I sit.
And really, I don't sit in my own homes. I
Really?
walk past things. I enjoy my guest room because I walk past it and I'm like, there it is. It's a piece of art. It's an installation.
Right.
There's my couch with its pillows and they're karate chopped and they're all there and I can't sit on it. It's an installation.
Right.
I enjoy my things and I enjoy as an installation. And I think that, I don't know why I just went off on that tangent.
Well, we personally just finished building a house that we put a lot of thought, and as you know, my background's in architecture, and so I put a lot of thought into the design and everything else, and Caleb kind of finished out the details and really, for us, perfected the design because I haven't practiced architecture in a long time, and I was coming up short in a lot of areas. But it's interesting to me because both my wife and I are very minimalist to a large degree. But I've insisted that we have one super busy painting, like in a very focal point of the house. And
is it Heather?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Heather Chantos.
Yeah,
She does. I absolutely love her
Me
work.
too.
And it's so weird because it's just color scribbles. I mean, it's like Jackson Pollock, but on a different, wavelength.
Yeah.
But
she's a cool cat.
oh yeah, she does.
And again, like, you're compelled. Like, who gets up in the morning?
Oh, she is incessant with her work.
And,
like,
and,
she
and,
just
and
goes
does
and
that,
goes and
but
goes.
that's luck. Like, you're lucky. Like, you're just lucky that you get up every morning and think, what can I do today? And maybe I want to do some video, and maybe I want to surf, and maybe I want to do this. But that's a God-given talent that you actually want to get up and paint those weird shapes. And I love her stuff.
Yeah, I look at it and I'm like, why did you make those curves like that? But they relate to other things in there.
Yeah.
And some of them do it more effective than others, but the tones, like, I'll follow her on Instagram and see where she's at in the world.
Yep.
And the color tones that are coming into her paintings from the location. Like when she was in Spain, a lot of her stuff was a lot more kind of earthy, pastel, arid kind of stuff. And it was really interesting. But to get back to...
And now that she's in Berlin, it's a little harder.
It's a little harder.
Yeah.
It's more rigid,
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it's fascinating. And it's beautiful, and you don't know why, because I'm not an artist, but I look at it, and I'm like, it just makes sense to me.
Well, it's the most direct display of just emotive, just emotion in color and shape. And it's just
passion. I mean, again, like, I don't know why she wanted to get up and paint that, and I don't know why it makes me feel great, but it's the energy she puts in it.
Do you know she lost her sight when she was a kid for a significant amount of time? Yeah. Like, it was just everything was like a sheet of gray. She couldn't see anything. And that's, I think something about that experience at a formative time of life probably really, really pushed and shaped what she's doing today, I'd imagine.
I don't know what makes the person get up and work at a call center, but I know I need them to. And I know I need them to answer that phone.
I know what makes them do that. They have to.
I don't know. I think that they're called to do something else every day after 5 o'clock that I'm not. They find joy in different things. And
but they wouldn't go to that call center unless they had to. But we need them on that wall.
Well, they actually don't want. For me, I'm like, I don't think they want to wake up every day and paint. I don't think they want to rearrange their house. I don't think they want to take pictures.
You have to. And Heather has to. And if I won the lottery, I'd still be doing this.
Some people find service to others at a call center a worthy thing. And like I said, I need them there, and I want them there. You might as well ask me to land on the moon to go and work at a call center.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it. I don't know how someone can go, like we were saying. But
I made cold calls when I was starting. Like, I called almost every single architect in the state, like within a 60 to 120 mile radius, said, I will do a shoot for free for you. When I was absolutely no one. And they're like, well, thanks for calling. And for probably 2 solid weeks, every day, all day long, rejection. Holy cow, that was hard. And one single person took me up on it, Michael Cherrick, I think. And he had done an industrial kind of pole barn type building that had, it was a very tiny budget, and we did what we could. But yeah, that idea of interacting with people over the phone, I was doing it because I had an end goal in mind. It was horrendous for me especially, and it felt very rejecting and everything else. But I would imagine the people that go to that call center, for one, if they weren't getting paid, they wouldn't be going there, I would think. And I would imagine everyone that goes there is doing that, to meet an end that is very practical.
I just don't know if everyone is sparked with passion to do stuff. I think that there's...
That's fair.
I think I don't want to spend my weekend at a club.
Oh, geez,
I don't. But a lot of those people that work those 9-to-5 jobs do. You know, like when you're in the city and you look on the subway, and I'm blown away. I mean, I could ride the subway all day and look at people and just imagine where they go and what they're doing and what drives them and
do you
what
ever
it is,
do you ever in your mind try and think about what that person does and
all
who
the
they
time.
are and then go ask them? I've always been tempted to do that.
I mean, I bartended for a long, long time. I mean, 17 years I bartended. It was the best thing I've ever done. And that's why, I mean, I could sort of make my assumptions and with the clothing and the shoes and the wife came in late and I could just imagine it.
Did you get good at predicting?
I think so. Yeah. I think that again, it's formulaic, and I think I can just be like, yeah, I think I can. My friends, I'm pretty good at a spitball of like, this is what I think is going on there. I think it's his daughter. Right?
So, on being a self-employed creative, do you follow other stylists on social media or anything else? Really?
Yeah.
Do you feel a sense of dread and failure when you see other people doing good work?
No.
Really? You're the first self-employed creative I've come across that I've asked that isn't like... I love celebrating other people's work. I love seeing the work. I'm like, wow, that's great. But it pushes on to me this sense of like, you better get up early tomorrow, buddy.
I think maybe that's why I've made a push to not define what I do and how. I don't promote any of my own work. I, put pictures of my dogs up, and I like to say I'm more of a candlelight person than a spotlight person, and it's just not how I live my life. Sure. But for other people that are like, I'm a stylist, I'm a designer, I'm this, and they put it out there, I'm like, good for you. That's amazing. And I'm really, it's intoxicating, and I'm happy for them. There are moments where I'm like, oh, Christ, I don't have any mood boards, I mean, of course, you have those moments, but then I have that little voice that's just saying, like, just do you. Just be you, and you're not them, and let them do it. Right. And I don't read a lot of magazines. I just don't really find it all that fascinating. I don't know. I
had a conversation with a client that runs a magazine the other day, and they were referencing something in the latest issue and everything, and they're like, "Did you look at it?" And I was like, "No."
Yeah.
Like, well, did you look at the one? No, yeah. I don't ever pick up magazines. And I just told the person, I was like, I'm interested in the creation of this media, but I don't consume this media like that.
Me either. And I don't think I don't need my ideas to be original. I like them to be original for me.
Right.
And I don't think I'm reinventing the wheel, and I try to be inspired by as much as I can, and whether that's their work, a subway, a cab ride, the woods, whatever it is, I just try to stay open for it. But no, I follow, Tyler crew, so talented. So there's so much talent in this state, and because I am self-taught, I'm gobbling it up.
Right.
You know,
right.
I'm just like, oh, okay.
So how did you end up in Maine, and how did you end up finding that you were a really good stylist?
Well, thanks. I had one of my best friends. She and I bartended together out. I lived in Boulder, Colorado for 10 years, and we bartended together. And I was living down in D.C. and sort of going between New York and D.C. and, you know, bouncing back and forth. And she lived up here, and I had wanted to open a store. So I was a creative director for a web company down there. And I really loved meeting with clients and articulating in words to a designer what they wanted to convey. And it was the first time where I was like, oh, I love this. Because you can say, I want it to feel warm and happy and this, but those are just blah, blah. It's word salad. What does warm feel for you? What is warm? What is refreshing? What is energetic? I'm so curious that way. And so I was doing that. I wanted to open a store. I'd been collecting and thrifting and flea marketing my whole life, you know. And a space came available in Kennebunkport, and Krista said, come look at it.
From Boulder, Colorado?
I was living in D.C. at the time.
Okay.
And I came up, and it's the house I live in now, and it has 3 floors.
Are you still in that same location where because every time I drive by, I kind of look in that front. It's like, I think I see Krista there.
Yeah, it's late 1700s, finished early 1800s. Her mom had a toy store there when she was growing up, called the Golden Goose Toy Store. It's just got great energy, really amazing energy, and it's got 3 floors. And I now, no more store, so we opened the store, and people started coming in and asking advice on design and decor and la la. It just evolved. I don't know.
Such a good walk-by location in the summer,
it's
though,
great.
too.
Oh yeah, it's great. And talk about architecture. My windows have been looking at that church since 1800s. How humbling is that when I'm drinking my coffee and I think, like, this house has looked at that. Like, it's architecture, right? This space, it's the space has. Right. I don't know. I'm tripped out on it. And here I am. I really, honestly, I just sort of keep going forward.
So how do clients find you? How do you get work typically?
Word of mouth, referrals.
That's really nice.
I really am blessed, and it sounds so corny. I just am. I lucked out, and I just don't know how to say it any other way. I work hard, not because I'm a hard worker, but because I really like it, because it's how I want to spend my day. You're just a natural. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't necessarily even know about that. I just want to do what I do. That's it. And it's sort of evolved, and the styling, I think, like I said, it's refreshing for me to be able to start and wrap up something in that amount of time. Oh, yeah. It's so great. It's so, like, you expend so much energy. It's like a spike of high output, and then it's like back to, like, okay, relax for a second. Yeah. And then, like, exert yourself. It's like, what do they call it? Interval training. Yeah, it's just so amazing. And then I can go back to do you like this couch? It'll be 12 weeks. Right. Okay. Here's the builder. Here's, the architect, they show me plans, and I'm like, okay, it looks like a drawing on paper to me, but all right. It's okay. It's just kind of, it's just this funny little thing that I've ended up here. And I grew up in apartments and army barracks. I've never lived in a home. I've never had a dishwasher. I've never picked where my own light switch goes. So when people are like, where do you want your light switches? I'm like, that's so amazing. You get to choose that. You get to choose this? Yeah. Like, somebody chose that? It's just this trip that I'm on that I don't really know.
Where do you see this going for you? Are you just kind of riding it in the moment? Or?
Yeah. My parents did a lot of crazy things, but one thing I felt like a gift that they gave me was, we don't really care what you do. Just be happy and do it. If you want to be a waitress, be the happiest, best waitress ever. And there was never any pressure on me. I mean, they weren't around. But as a byproduct of that, I'm not an ambitious person. I want enough. I want to be happy. I don't want too much. I just want enough. I just want to kind of keep doing it. Where it's going, I don't know. There's sometimes I think I'm working towards being a waitress at a diner on the weekends, if that's what makes me happy.
Yeah.
You know, if I want to pick flowers during the day and style 2 things a month and work I'm cool with that. You know, I think I've got some years in between there, and I've been doing a lot of exciting stuff for Tim Harrington, who I always laugh. Saying his name is like saying Kaiser Soze to me. You know, people are always like, Tim Harrington. I'm like, yeah. And he's great, and he's throwing a lot of different projects at me right now. And it's exciting for me. Yeah, the commercial design aspect of things is.
Oh yeah, that's true. How do you?
It's trippy.
First
really,
of all,
really
I mean, being involved with Tim is, you know, there's a, to use surfing terms, that's a groundswell of energy and work behind him and everything that he's doing. How do you approach commercial different than residential?
Oh God, the whole process is so different, and it's. Something resonated when I was listening to the podcast of you saying, you know, an agenda helps. Having an agenda, having that architect there, having somebody that wants to help you see something. Residential, it's collaboration. I love it. It's easier for me. I'm like, oh, I got you. I'll figure you out.
Right.
What do you like? You like black. You like white. Do you both like yellow? Cool. Let's go yellow. You know, there's something to bounce off of. Commercial freaks me out because I'll never meet these people. They're just, it's...
Well, you're not really meeting a person at that point. You're meeting a brand.
A brand, and it's a vibe, and it's, you have you, me, him, her, and everyone feels totally different about things, but yet we're all here having dinner.
Right.
Or we're having this hotel, and it's cool. I like it, and I feel... like now that I'm 12 years into it and I've done a couple hotels or I've done these things, I have to stop saying like, I don't really know what I'm doing.
See, here's a compliment that I'll give you. Get ready to be uncomfortable.
Okay.
I've been to a lot of restaurants where I feel like, oh yeah, here's a canned brand that, you know, they put around us and it feels nice. But there's occasionally places you go into that are branded but are done to such a level that there's this something that pulls you beyond the styling and everything else where you feel like someone, you know, it's on the level of a movie set budget equals that much more talent styling that you get in some, you know, I mean, just like the sets in Harry Potter, the sets in Game of Thrones, these kind of things are just crazy and deep and everything connects.
And you feel it.
Like I feel like if I went into a restaurant that you had completely styled and had been given free reign, that there'd be something about the styling that pulled me beyond that place, you know, and exuded that kind of like I'm picking up on a vibe.
I love those moments. Like I love the surprise corner. Right, the looking up on the rafter. And
Louis Kahn did that in the building that I think it was Louis Kahn in the Christian Science building in downtown Boston. It's this narrow, kind of really tall building that we had shot a renovation of an office space in there. In this little moment in the corner of the building, it was, you know, into concrete, just this perfect little seat for a person in this corner looking out a window. Single thing. Only one person gets to sit there and look out this one window, thought of in this, you know, essentially skyscraper, you know, which was really cool.
Isn't that the nice thing though, that when you can convey somebody was here and they cared?
Yeah.
Like somebody thought about something.
It's a fingerprint left behind.
It is, and I just did a tasting room in Kennebunk, Batson River, and it's not me left to my own devices. It never is, but I mean, it was so fun to do all these little things, all these little surprises and all these little touches, and that feeds me. I mean, it really to be able to drop something where someone doesn't expect it. And to let them have that moment of a memory or a hope or something, it's
You're giving
great.
me an idea right now for like doing a video spot. Like if we were able to follow you or like Russ Tyson, right? Like if we were to go through one of his buildings, homes, whatever, and to actually be with the architect in the space, them explaining why I did this, that, and the other, here, there, and everywhere. Or, going through the tasting room with you, like, here I did this, and it relates to that. That would be really informative to be able to see that, because it's usually disconnected.
And that's what you feel. Like, you can't explain it. You can't, you feel it, right? Like, it's not, it's energy. I mean, it's wabi-sabi, it's feng shui, it's whatever you want to call it. There's all of these different things, but it's, somebody was here and they cared.
Right.
Right? And somebody, if it's an architect, like I cared where that sunset came up.
Right.
When you came around that
Or
corner, the way that window sits. And there's just, it's trippy. I'm like, I don't know how we got here, but this is amazing. It's sited so well.
Right.
And it's so good. And you feel that. I can look at design all day and I'm like, okay, I get it. You got the rug. You have a tall lamp and you have that, and it's beautiful in its own right. I don't feel anything. Like, I want to be pulled at.
So what kind of pieces speak to you and grab you? Like, because you go through flea markets, thrift stores, whatever.
I love weird stuff. I don't know. I mean, I love architectural old tools and spools, mirrors, paintings of flowers, skulls. I mean, I don't know. I mean, my house it's like a freak show of weird oddities. I'm lucky enough that I can place them somewhere, that I can buy these things and put them in a cabin or put them in a cottage or use them in a photo shoot, and they live to see their other day. I don't know. I gravitate towards new things. Towards old things. And I love potter. I love maker energy, right? Like somebody made that. Somebody didn't make this, but
this was pressed somewhere and assembled here.
Time and a place. So is mine.
But
there's something about the energy of maker energy.
Sure.
Just create. I don't know.
So the creative mind, you probably had people tell you a lot when you were growing up, like, oh, you're so creative. You're so creative.
Or such a smart ass, but whatever.
It's that glint in your eye that I was talking about.
Whatever.
So my recent foray into losing faith and everything else has got me listening to a lot of philosophy, science, scientists, physicists, quantum physics, all that stuff, that people can speak on all these things and they can refine them down to these very precise ways of describing where things come from, where they are now, and where they go, and why. Everything's very objective, and it's pulling from all this subjective stuff, finding the objective in the subjective things to be able to refine them and explain them, understand them, put them on the shelf, move on. Right?
Are we talking about psychology, science?
Just the kind of cloud of all of that I've been interacting with to try and find a better understanding of the divine and everything else, which now that I've gotten to this point seems like a little ridiculous, but I still love the ability to push farther through those objective means. And it's interesting when I ask these kind of questions from creatives, there's generally not an ability to really pinpoint, like, why do I choose this thing? I don't know. It just speaks to me. And consistently, these same kinds of things with these, they kind of just genuinely speak to me. And so I choose them, and it's cohesive, and I could go and view one house to another house and know, oh, this must be Krista here and here, because I can,
Yeah.
But generally, I find the creative mind does not have as much the, what's the word I'm looking for, to articulate that as easily. And what I think, and I'm putting this on myself too, that I think there's more of a connectedness between all parts of the brain in a creative that allows them to pull from emotion, visuals, sound, taste, all of that, and actually put it together in that moment of creativity and put it out there, right? But at the same time, I think it also having all parts of the brain interacting and kind of, it's like you're in a big peanut gallery. And they're all just kind of like, and so you can produce something from it. But then if someone asks you, like, well, why did you produce it? I was like, I don't know. All those little voices in my head were just like, me, 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 me,
Yeah.
me, me. And then I did that. And
Yeah.
I do that a lot and consistently. And it seems to be working out, and people have paid me. So
Yeah.
I'm just going to keep doing it,
Yeah.
And that's a really interesting thing to me. But I also find that I think introversion and depression can run more highly in creatives as well. That I think it's kind of like having your aperture really wide, like all the light comes in, and you hear everything, and you see everything, and you feel everything, and like all of that informs that entire peanut gallery, and you're able to output and create. But at the same time, it's very, very wearing on you. And if you don't process that, acknowledge that, and then revitalize yourself and be careful with that process, I think it can lead to very easily to depression and just running yourself down. Because I find at the end of just a photo shoot, like you were saying, you're just zapped, completely zapped.
Yeah.
And I also find that, like, towards the end of the season, I'm just like, I'm dragging bottom, and I have to be very careful to make sure I'm like doing some type of cardiovascular, or I'll just, I might not be in the best financial position right now, but I have to go on a surf trip or something, because I've got nothing left to give.
I mean, that's who you bring to the table. I have to constantly say to myself, like, you, Krista, need to take a walk outside.
Right.
You need to have coffee with this friend. You need to go see this art show. You need to watch The Real Housewives of New York City.
That bubble bath with those candles.
But, you need to do those things because you are your commodity. You are what you sell. Your mind, your health.
You're really selling yourself.
You are the product. And this you owe it to your clients, to me, that I need to stay open. And
because if this isn't good, what you output
then
isn't going to be good.
I'm just saying buy the brown one.
Yeah.
And when I hear myself doing that, when I get spread thin and I know I'm not present, and I look at it as a light fixture, and I look at it as something that's individual, I know that I am not connected, and I need to get away and remind myself why I'm doing this. And it's not a light fixture, it's their bathroom. And they've spent a lot of money on it, and they're tortured about what light fixture to put, and they don't want to make the wrong decision, and they don't. And I feel for them, and I think I'm constantly saying to people, be critical, don't criticize, and challenge yourself to create because you want to create, not because you have to create.
Right.
Not because something is wrong and you have to fix it. And so much of up until 10 years ago, it was just, I have to fix everything. Everything needed to be fixed. Whereas now I'm like, no, you just want to do it. You just want to create. Create just to create. And when people, back to the light fixture, which made me think of that, is, how frozen people get trying to choose something because they don't trust themselves, and they're telling themselves they shouldn't really be picking this out, and the last light fixture they picked out wasn't that great, and they've created all this negative, and I'm like, oh wait, you just killed all your creativity. Creativity doesn't thrive in self-criticism. Be critical, challenge yourself, say what can I do better, but Don't tell yourself you have no style. Don't tell yourself you're not good at something. Don't tell, it's just creativity is just like, oh, I won't go there,
Right.
So it's just, I don't know why I went off on that tangent.
Well,
But
I've got it's such an interesting thing to me to really understand what is creativity, because you're working as a creative in any of these realms, you're giving emotionally, and then you're trying to get people to pay you for it. And it's a weird dynamic that to me, I just have to be really honest about it up front and just say, like, this is all I've got, and I've, got so many years of doing it, and I've got to charge absolutely as much as I possibly can and not leave any money on the table because it's all I have. I do not come from wealth,
Yeah.
But it's weird because you're emotionally involved, and then you're charging for it, and people very much appreciate what you do because you're bringing a subjective talent to the table. Like, I have a technical hurdle that I have to get over of understanding camera gear and lighting, the technical part of lighting. And, I have to get past those technical hurdles, but that's not what people are paying me for. They're paying for that specific thing that is the composition and lighting and those thoughts that go into where's the person going to be in here and what do I want in and out. And it's just
It's
creativity.
holding that space for me when I think about charging people has always been an uncomfortable dialogue with me. It's just
Talk to me
always
about
been
that. Like, how do you approach that?
I don't.
You just send them
I
a bill and
hide.
run?
I hide, if that. They run into me and they're like, we owe you. And I'm like, you do.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
I will not be teaching business classes anytime soon. I can tell you that much. I don't know. There's just, it's just a weird exchange for me. I don't know. In some ways, I feel like I would be great on a commune. I feel like if I could just get up and help people and sort and organize pantries and change people's rooms around and teach things. I'm not an artist. I never do I consider myself an artist. I'm an art director. Right?
Well, what's the difference between an artist and a creative?
I don't
in your
create anything. I create.
Oh, but you do create.
I do, but I believe I'm an art director and not an artist. I feel like I take other people's art.
You're an environment director.
Yeah. I guess to some, but I have no desire to even take this microphone. I'm just like anything with my hands. I'm like, no, I don't. I can't drill. I can't hang anything. I can't paint anything.
Right.
You don't want me on that wall, what I like to do is I like to take what you do and I like to take what he does and I like to formulate it. I don't know. Charging has always been a strange thing. And I have, as you grow up and now I'm in, getting older,
Late
trying
20s.
to figure out why I devalue myself and what that is and what that is inside of me that feels like it cheapens it. If it feels like I'm doing it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
It's been a dialogue that I've had to have, and I think for a long time, because I was learning on my own dime, it was important to me that by the time I started charging what I felt was a fair price, that I could back it up.
Sure.
And that I could say, like, I taught myself and I know this, and now it's been 12 years and I know a thing or two. It's gotten easier to charge just out of years of struggling.
Doing it and having the fire there of like, well, if you don't charge, it's
hard. Yep. Poverty's hard. And poverty is different. I'm learning to be a little bit better about that. I just want to do it. And it sounds so silly, but I just want to get up every day and just do it and go to bed and get up the next day and do it. I hate ordering. I hate recycling. I really like the whole technical part of it, like you said, and the editing and all of these things. I didn't know that was part of design. I didn't know I was going to spend hours of my life looking for a light fixture. And then when it got there, opening the package, getting rid of the recycling. There's so much involved where I'm like, I actually don't want to be doing this. I actually don't want to be invoicing.
Do you work with an assistant or anything?
No,
or
it's just me.
Just a one-woman show.
It's just me, and I like it that way. I miss collaboration, but I don't want a machine. I want to just do what I want to do. You know?
To psychoanalyze you a tiny bit, I would imagine you have some uneasiness around charging because it's just simply something that you feel that you're genuinely helping people, and it's something you want to do. And it's hard. It's like a perversion of the relationship to then say, no,
and
you
it's
have
unfair
to pay
to
me
other
for
people,
this.
and it's actually unfair to other people to ask them to value you more than you value yourself. And I have had this dance with people where they're like, but I don't even want to call you if you're not going to charge me. I'm like, that makes sense to me now. You know,
Right.
I've had to grow up, and I
Sure.
have had to learn how to value myself and to do that. And I'm still trying to figure all that out. I do not, I hate the fact that I've sat here this long is like an enigma to me that I could say, because I'm like, oh, I could go rearrange that over there. I like to keep busy as well.
Rearrange the studio. There's not a lot of pretty things in here.
I don't know. I just feel like I could make a great vignette over there. It's sitting down and doing paperwork, sitting at a computer, doing those things at my heart rate, like everything about it is spreadsheets. I'm like, well, I don't understand why people find these so handy. They're so confusing to me by the time I scroll here, and it's the whole thing.
I do love a good spreadsheet that I can create myself
You're
that
lucky.
automates stuff.
You're
I really
lucky.
like that.
Yeah, you're really, really lucky.
Because it eliminates having to do more of that type of work. I feel like I've taken like 2 years of my time and just put it into there, and then I can, fill in the blanks.
I'm waiting for that to strike. I don't even write anything down, and it's people are like, "You're not going to write any of this down." I'm like, "Does that scare you?" It should. I don't know. I don't know if it's like being a bartender. I don't know if it's memory. When I was saying, it's for me when I take on a client. If you say, "Listen, you're going to build a house or whatever," I feel like I tuck a little spot, and it just has like Trent written on it, and I keep it. I carry it wherever I go, and I'm there. I'm thinking about your house. Right. I'm thinking about a palette. I'm thinking about what you said.
It's like kind of like you started a relationship.
Yeah.
Like a real relationship.
And I hold the space.
Yeah.
And it's going to be 40 hours of work, and that's going to be about $3-4 grand. Great. Do you know that? So that's the hours, but it's like, no, I'm going to actually give birth to this, right? Like I'm going to carry it. And even if it's a photo shoot, the second I get that call, I'm there. I'm like in that kitchen. What am I cooking?
Right.
Why am I cooking it? What am I doing? And it's kind of cool, to like hold all of these things. So I think as I've gotten to understand that better, I feel better about charging, where I say like, no, you've got a spot.
You got to pay for that spot.
But I'm going to hold it for you. And I only,
Yeah.
there's a little filing cabinet, and it's got Trent written all over it. And at lunch you said you hated that color green, and I'm going to remember that, And
So do you do contracts with clients at all?
Not really. What I do is I say, depending on what it is, like you need me to come into your house and help, blah. I have no idea. And I'm just like, I don't know, like 20 hours. You want to give me 10? I'll let you know when we're getting there. And I just charge by the hour. I don't mark anything up. I don't get anything on discount. I don't want any of that. Like, I just don't want to do it. It's not the business I want.
Right.
I want to just do what I want to do. And that's that.
Sounds like you're a great contender for having an agent. It would just deal with everything else, and you'd come in and be like the creative.
It's worked out, and like I said, I love to collaborate, and I work for the Resort Collection, and my best friend Krista, she and I work great together, and everything I've ever done has been better because she's, I'm like, Krista, you need to come over and help me with the spreadsheet. Like, I got to get this in, and I miss collaborating, but yeah, I'm really good. If people can be like brown or white, I'm like brown. I can go quickly.
Right.
Because I'm fortunate, I guess. I don't know.
What's your favorite, the project that you're most proud of to this date?
Oh, Christ, that is such a hard one. I don't know. I really don't.
There's got to be one that just flashed through your head.
You know what flashed through my head, which is it like made me a little sad, is thinking of my friend asking me to go back, and her stepdad had just died, and her mom was so sad, and she needed to look at her house differently.
Yeah.
And needed me to shake it up a little bit. And sometimes it just flashed in my head, like just that gratification of not having her feel trapped.
You genuinely
things,
connect with a purpose in what you're doing.
I do. That's why I do it. Like I'm like service to others. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, my dad was in the military. That part was there. My mom, teacher's aide, always taught us to go and like serve food at soup kitchens and abuse shelters. I like helping people. It makes me feel good. I think as far as projects go, what I've created, I don't know. I don't ever take pictures of them. I don't ever hire a photographer.
But you did.
I don't document
you stated
them.
the one that you're most proud of, or at least connects with you the most,
that
is
feeling,
that one
like
that
those,
had
that sort of, those are what flash through my head.
Yeah.
When I can go in and just take what people have and help them see it through a different lens, it really makes me happy. It's like, yes, sister, this is your house. And look at how cute it is. And you get to come home here every day. Right. And I love that. And I have moments that I'm like, wow, that looks really amazing. And I did that. And that's great. And years ago, I did Lodge on the Cove, and which is a cute little surf lodgy thing. And one of my happiest moments that I can think of was the very first day I saw this 65-year-old couple drive in and read the New York Times in the lobby. And I thought, I just designed that lobby. They're reading a New York Times in my lobby. They're smart. Look at those intellectuals enjoying what I did. There are moments that I feel connected to something that I did. For the most part, anything I look at, critical. What could I do differently?
Sure,
I want to rearrange it. I want to do this. I want to do that. So I don't know. Little moments that I'm proud of, I guess.
I had when you say...
What's your favorite shot you've ever done? It's got to be one.
Two just went through my head, and I don't know if it's because I was thinking about them previously or not, but I love many of the shots that we did of the Witten Project up near... down East Main. A couple of those are, and it's, I'm judging them based on the architecture and the styling, not on the photography. Interesting that I do that. One of my favorite images is one of the first images I ever took that was of a Stephen Blatt project down in Goose Rocks, and it was because it just was the first time I realized, like, there's something. Anytime I do this thing where I used to do it more, but when I'd get an image that was good for some reason, I would come back and look at it over and over and over and over. For some reason, I'd make sure I put it on my phone and I'd just keep looking at it. And I don't know why. I just keep looking at it, and something would kind of marinate into my head. But it's just a really, kind of nice, pretty standard, but very, very nicely proportioned beach house down in Goose Rocks that Stephen Blatt did. And there's the ocean is suggested beyond, and it's there, but you don't see it. And it's just really, really nice in direct light early morning.
Is it on your portfolio?
Yes.
I'll go back and look.
Yeah. And I can now look at it and see things that I did wrong, but I did
remember the moment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I did the shoot for free, and it really helped start my career for many different reasons. But, there's a lot of different images that are now starting to go through my head. But it is interesting for some reason. There'll be some that really click with me. And as I said with creatives, I can't exactly tell you technically why. I can pick out aspects of it that connect with me, but there's just an overall subjective viewing of it that to me is just like, man, I like this.
I love the
For some
shot of
reason.
your wife in the garbage.
I
I love that shot.
Do you know the story behind
I
that?
I do, because I remember asking you about that shot, because I just loved it so much, and you sort of told me the challenges of getting it. And
Well, the motivation and everything behind it for people watching and listening. So
I forgot.
I was starting out. I don't think anyone had paid me to do anything at that point. And a friend of mine who's a commercial photographer, we basically came up with a challenge. Each couple weeks, we would say, all right, let's do an ad campaign for broccoli or garden hoses or something. And I forget what this one was for, but it might have preceded this actually, and I might be telling the story out of order. But anyways,
No one's here to fact check.
Yeah, great. Don't fact check. I was coming up with just the way I work best many times is by coming up with concept in my head ahead of time and then figuring out how to execute it. Other photographers that I've spoken to just go out and see what they can get, and they find these great creative moments, and I don't work as good that way, or I haven't learned to do it as much that way. Maybe I shouldn't undersell myself to potential clients. Who knows? But anyways, I had envisioned this thing in my head. But at the time that we did it, we were still living in the house that it was shot in front of. And so over like a month, I shot this with her jumping back and forth with the trash a bunch of times.
In her bathrobe, which is
her
so
bathrobe.
Amazing to me.
And well,
that she did that. That's love.
She's up for anything, though. She's just that kind of person. She's fun. And then we had shot it when there was snow and when there wasn't snow, and then I had to go out and shoot the same composition when the trash truck came by, because when she was jumping, there's no trash truck. Then what happened with this image is that we had to move out of that house into another location to save money, rent out our house, and save up money to have our first child. And I was taking these images and uploading them onto Stokes site, iStock, just to see if I could make a few pennies off of them as stock photos. And someone saw the image and selected it as a image of the year for iStock photo. And so I got this email when I was home alone, still relatively unemployed, and my wife's out working and I'm home trying to start a business as a photographer.
Sure.
And I get this email saying
Cereal.
yeah, underwear, cereal.
Yep.
And I get this email, you're in the top 100 for, and I was like, it's a stock agency. They don't pay much. Top prize, $5,000. I was like, wow, but it's 1 in 100 and
you won it?
And then a week later, I get a thing that says you've been selected for the top 10. And I was like, wow, that's really, but I'm never going to win this, Week later, I'm sitting home alone again in my underwear eating cereal. And you've won the out of millions of, of these images submitted a year. And I was just kind of home alone by myself, and no one had really paid me to do anything. And they had selected my image to,
That's amazing.
Give me $5,000.
It's a really, really amazing image.
Technically, it falls apart if you zoom in on it too much, but it's the
feeling, it's the emotion of it. It's we've all been there. Like it just. It doesn't, you forget your need to put the garbage out over
and you hear
road.
The truck a block down,
and you don't
you're
care
like,
that
oh,
you're
no.
in your robe. It doesn't matter. There's something about that image that I just love so much. So maybe I'm
But that's what put us past the mark of being able to say, all right, we're self-employed and we can have our first kid now. So
that's amazing.
That was pretty
Your
cool.
wife running out for the garbage in her bathrobe.
Yep.
That's great.
Yep.
I love it.
But,
yeah,
cool.
So I think it's more moments than maybe projects, that I remember. Like just knowing, if I picture people at Vinegar Hill dancing to a band and they're like, we loved it so much. And it was like when I hear, we were talking about praise earlier, but when I hear people are enjoying a space, when my clients tell me that they love their living room or whatever it is, that's what I get off on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
It's interesting to me, the different approach and drive that each of us have. You're very, very emotionally and empathetically driven, it seems. And where you're saying you don't have a lot of personal aspirational drive, I definitely, I have to struggle with being a very self-centered person. And the best thing you can do is just admit that, and then people will be more likely to call you out on it and correct your behavior, which is great for me. But I've always been, I've always thought of myself first, just naturally, and that makes that business part of it easier. But it's, it's shameful at the same time, but it's, I'm very driven to be able to pat myself on the back and say, yeah, people appreciate what you do, and this is great, and that's fine, and I feel better about myself that people appreciate what I do. And it's hard for me at the same time. I guess
I have to question that a little bit, because I see what you're saying, and I know, but I also see you going off on tangents like this.
Well,
and
yeah,
there are things that I see you doing that I don't know if anyone will ever see or anyone will do. And it's...
So I can separate my life into these different things, though, right? So when it comes to taking picture of architecture, that is a capital venture. It's not about... it's not as much about helping people as much as I know I have a talent to be able to communicate what someone else has created in an architectural space.
Yes.
And I know very much so that people are paying me a good amount of money that's their, very close to personal money. It's when you're running an architectural firm, it's pretty much like they're giving you their personal money.
Yeah.
And so I know I have to do my absolute best. And I know that by doing my absolute best, that'll solidify my reputation and be able to get me to be able to charge more and more and more and pay off a house and have retirement, And I'm, selfishly motivated in that way. And it's all, it all works together for a better end result. But like with other personal projects that I've done, like that process doesn't give me personal fulfillment. It gives me security.
Right.
But the personal fulfillment projects of where I feel like I'm helping people, like with the Reflect Project or other things that I've done, those are from a completely different place. That I used to think the creative ability isn't really something that as much can be used to directly help people like that. But I've realized that it really is extremely helpful if done appropriately. The only thing I've found is I haven't found a good way of being able to make a living at that. I have to do this other work to pay for doing that,
Yeah.
And so that's hard. Interestingly, I'm going this Friday to meet Jesus.
You are? Where's this?
There's an Episcopal church that feeds homeless here in Biddeford, and I've had a lot of time where I've just been kind of sitting and philosophizing and navel-gazing, trying to find answers. And I know, biblically, from a Christian point of view, it's always I was, naked and you clothed me. I was in prison, you came to visit me. And so I figure at some point I've got to start reaching out and helping others and see if I can find meaning in that more so. So
yeah.
I'm going to go do that and see if I have an emotional breakdown and can't handle it yet or what, but we'll see. So
Susan Grisant, Susan Grisant.
Mm-hmm.
She has been listening to this Adashante. Do you know who Adashante is?
She suggested that book or something
about
to me
Jesus,
a while ago.
And it's really fascinating because I'm not...
Audiobook, yeah. She forwarded that to me.
And it's... like any other story, I'm like, okay, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea. And if you want to believe it, I'm happy to do that. But there's those words, those things that you can't explain to me is spirituality. The things, creativity that you can't put words to. A hug, right? Doing something for someone else. That to me is spirituality.
Right.
Are those moments that there aren't words for. And so she was telling me about this book, and it's like, be more like Jesus. just love people. Just be there just solely to love people, you know?
Right.
And I'm like, God, that's just so easy. And there's certain things
Doesn't it have
in this
to be
book.
more complicated? I'm being sarcastic.
I don't know. I don't know. But I do know that it feels good to do good. And I know that it feels good to be nice to people. And I know that it feels good to look someone in the eye for a little bit longer and be like, how are you today? Like, and I am such a Tasmanian devil, and I can just be so up in my own dish that I have to like tell myself, like, no, it's a person in front of you.
Right.
You
right.
know, that
I
had
found
a
when I
hard
was on
morning.
vacation,
And, you know.
I would take so much more time with people and
Yeah.
communicate with people.
Yeah.
Whereas now that I'm in go mode, I don't even look up from like the pin pad when I'm doing my card, and like I realize sometimes that I haven't even looked
And
someone in the eyes in an
it
interaction.
doesn't feel good.
Yeah, it's
you
a little.
know.
But I got to get out there. I got to pay for things. I got to make a name for myself. I got to achieve.
Yeah.
I got to, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
I don't know if I want a
Finding
name
balance.
for myself. I really, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I think in the end we'll see, what they put on my tombstone, I guess.
I would think
have
the
no
best thing
idea.
you could do when it comes time to die is that a lot of people will, they'll miss you because you meant so much to them in the ways that you served.
I hope so.
And that's, what I really,
Yeah.
I think that's mostly what you have to kind of aim for in your life if it's to have meaning, is that when you get towards the end, you're more worried about who's going to do these things for these people that I've put myself in place to serve others, to do these things. Who's going to do those now?
Yeah.
Rather than, I want to live more for me or whatever. So
I think there's also, I think I said there's so much just teaching people as well. Like, I'm here for you right now. And I can say, like, I love you. And I what a shitty time you're having. And this is really hard. And but to try to teach them that that's from within as well. That
Right.
they actually don't need me for that. It's when I die, I'm like, I hope y'all get in early and get all my favorite pieces of art, I have this list of things I say to my friends, like, if you want to get back at me, bury me in a dress, like I sort of have this like sick sort of like, what are they going to do to torture me?
I want a pine box. I can't
You
believe
wanna-
people go in those coffins that and they formaldehyde.
You don't want to be cremated.
I suppose. Yeah, if I could be cremated and spread over the ocean, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, not that it would be cool. I mean, I'm not going to be
Yeah.
there doing it, but
I don't know. Death is, as you get older, I've been thinking about it, not in a morbid sense, but just what do you want people to say? And what is that legacy that you want to leave? And what is it that you hope that people say about you when you're not around,
the thing I have found is that, there's a saying, everything's relative, and to me, I've just learned that everything's far more relational, which is kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's not relative, it's relational.
Yeah.
And I think as humans, the most important things we have are our relationships, period.
Yeah.
Well, thanks
That's it.
for tuning in and listening. This is the incredible Krista Stokes. To see much of
Incredible.
her work, you can go to my website because
Yeah.
she's worked on a lot of it. So just
I
follow
don't-
her on KD Stokes,
I don't.
at KD Stokes on Instagram.
Yeah. It's
There you go.
so bad. It's so bad.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming in.
You're welcome.